Welcome to the deep dive. Our goal is pretty straightforward. Take all this information flying around, news, research, chatter, and pull out what really matters for you.
Yeah, think of it as getting up to speed fast, but, with the interesting bits highlighted so you actually know what's going on behind the headlines.
Today, we're diving into the AI world as it looked on June 11th, 2025. It was quite a busy day, actually. We saw big model news, some strategy plays, and, well, some real-world bumps.
We're going to hit the key stuff, OpenAI's O3 models and, importantly, some service issues they had. Then there's Mistral AI with their new reasoning focus.
Right, and Apple's AI strategy coming out of WWDC, plus what Meta's up to with talent, and maybe a huge acquisition.
So, yeah, a lot to unpack from just that one day.
Okay, let's get into it. OpenAI first. They had some pretty significant news on pricing and models.
Definitely eye-catching. The big headline was this massive price cut for their O3 model. We're talking an 80% reduction.
80%. Wow. So what did that bring the cost down to?
Down to $2 per $1 million input tokens, which is, incredibly aggressive pricing.
Okay, so $2 per $1 million input tokens. How does that stack up against, say, Google or others?
Well, sources were pointing out it puts O3 below competitors like Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Yeah.
Now, that one's often priced on output tokens, around $10 per $1 million for that. And it seems it could even be cheaper than GPT-4o, depending on how you use it. It's a clear shot across the bow on cost.
And wasn't Sam Altman mentioned? Something about him being happy with the Pro tier.
Yeah, specifically mentioned being satisfied with the performance per dollar you get from O3 Pro. So internally, they seem confident in the value proposition.
But the community reaction wasn't just pure celebration, was it? There was some hesitation there.
Right. That's where it gets interesting. A lower price per token sounds great, but people immediately started asking, okay, what's the catch? Does this mean a nerf is coming?
A nerf, like they downgrade the model's actual abilities right after dropping the price.
Exactly. That suspicion always comes up. And there's also just general confusion. You've got O3, O4 Mini, GPT-4o. People are trying to figure out, is this 80% cheaper model really cheaper? If I have to use, say, almost twice as many tokens to get the same quality result I got before.
Ah, okay, so the effective cost per decent answer might not drop as much as the sticker price.
Precisely. If you need 1.8 times the input, like one discussion suggested, that 80% drop suddenly looks a lot less dramatic for the final cost of getting something useful done. It shifts the work back to you, the user, to figure out how to prompt it just right.
Right. It shows people are getting savvy about this. It's not just the token price. It's the quality and consistency that determines the real cost.
Absolutely. And speaking of quality, this issue of trustworthiness,
Yeah.
it's still there, isn't it? Even with newer models.
Yeah, reports kept coming in about hallucinations. Even if you tell GPT-4o or maybe these O3 models too, hey, cite your sources, they still apparently make things up.
They do. Fabricating stats, citing studies that don't exist, even creating fake URLs that go nowhere, especially, it seems, with technical or medical questions where you really need accuracy.
So telling it to cite sources isn't enough. You still have to verify everything yourself, especially for important stuff.
It underlines that need for human oversight. Definitely. Don't just copy-paste without checking, especially in sensitive areas.
Good reminder.
Yeah.
Okay, so price down, verification still crucial. And is O3 Pro widely available now?
Yep, reports confirmed it's rolled out to all Pro users. You can access it in ChatGPT and via the API, so it's out there for people to try.
Okay, let's shift gears now. Over to Europe, Mistral AI. They launched new models focused on reasoning.
That's right. Their first one specifically targeting reasoning. Magistral Small and Magistral Medium.
Magistral, okay. What's the main idea? What are they trying to achieve with reasoning models?
The goal they stated is domain-specific, transparent, and multilingual reasoning. So models that are better at step-by-step logic maybe can show their work and can handle complex thinking in different languages or specialized fields.
And the small version is open source. That usually gets the community excited.
It definitely did. It's a 24 billion parameter model based on their Mistral Small 3.1, and the big draw for many was local deployment.
Meaning you can run it on your own machine.
Exactly. Reports suggested that if you quantize it, basically compress it a bit, you could potentially run it on a high-end gaming card like an RTX 4090 or even a MacBook with 32 gigs of RAM.
That's pretty accessible. Running a reasoning model locally is quite appealing for privacy and experimentation. What software does it work with?
It supports the usual suspects: MLX for Apple Silicon, Llama.cpp, Hugging Face Transformers, VLLM. So relatively straightforward for developers to get going. It has a big context window on paper, 128K, but some chatter suggests 40K might be more practical.
And the tech behind it, something called GRPO.
Yeah, generative rehearsal from policy optimization. With some tweaks Mistral made, like removing KL divergence. It's about the training method, how they try to get it to generate better, more reasoned outputs. Pretty technical stuff.
How's it performing? Are people impressed?
Results seem a bit mixed in the early days. Some benchmarks showed it lagging behind models like Qwen 3 on certain tasks. But then again, other users said it was really fast on Mistral's own chat platform, LeChat.
So maybe a speed versus raw score trade-off.
Could be. Speed is definitely important in practice.
And the overall community vibe. Excitement, skepticism.
A lot of excitement about the open source license Apache 2.0 is very permissive, and definitely the local running aspect. People were sharing tips online about the best settings like temperature 0.7, top 0.95, specific flags for tools like llama.cpp.
But you mentioned reasoning. Is everyone convinced it's actually reasoning better?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? There's definitely some skepticism. Is it fundamentally different or just good prompting and fine-tuning? Some reports mentioned problems like the model getting stuck in loops thinking or just outputting repetitive junk.
Infinite thinking loops. Doesn't sound very helpful.
Not ideal, no. Even with efforts apparently made during training to stop that.
And how do you even activate this reasoning mode? Is it automatic?
Apparently not. Users found you often have to explicitly ask it to respond with thinking or use similar prompts. It doesn't just do it by default.
So it's more like a prompted behavior than an inherent state. That adds to the skepticism, I guess.
It does fuel that debate about whether it's a new architecture or just clever tuning.
And what about the open sourcing? Was everyone happy?
Well, there was some disappointment that only the small model is open weight. People wanted the medium one, too. You saw comments comparing it to Google level of open awaiting, basically wishing they'd released more.
Interesting. Okay, let's pivot completely. Apple's WWDC 2025. They laid out their AI strategy. Sounds very Apple.
Yeah.
Hardware focused.
Very much so. It seems to boil down to two main technical pillars. First, a small, efficient on-device LLM, estimated around 3 billion parameters.
Tiny compared to the big cloud models.
Right. Designed to run fast directly on iPhones, iPads, Macs, uses that mixture of experts or MoE approach and some clever memory-saving tech like split-layer KV cache sharing, all optimized for Apple Silicon.
Okay, so fast. Private AI on your device. What's the second pillar?
Something for the cloud. A new server setup they call Parallel Track MoE, or PT-MoE, designed to run bigger models efficiently in their data centers, minimizing delays.
But the really clever bits seem to be how they're using existing tech, right? Something about texture compression.
This is the really fascinating part. They're reportedly using ASTC adaptive scalable texture compression. That's a GPU thing normally used to make game textures load faster.
Yeah, for graphics. How does that apply to AI?
They're apparently using it to compress the AI models themselves on the server side. The Apple chips can then decode these compressed model weights directly in hardware without needing extra computing power just for decompression.
Wow, so repurposing graphics tech for faster, more efficient AI processing. That feels very much like Apple leveraging their chip design advantage.
It's a smart play using what they're already good at.
And there's a vision component too, understanding images.
Yep, an integrated vision transformer setup with something called a register window mechanism. Trained on web data, plus, interestingly, synthetic multimodal data.
So how does this all come together for the user? Is it all on-device or all cloud?
It sounds like a tiered approach. Simple stuff, private stuff, like summarizing your notes, that happens on the device using the small model.
Keeps it private and fast.
Exactly. But for more complex questions, it falls back hierarchically to their bigger cloud models using that PT-MoE setup, and maybe even as a last resort,
What?
potentially falling back to an external model like ChatGPT for things totally outside Apple's domain.
Huh. Interesting. So a multi-layered system, device first, then Apple Cloud, then maybe outside AI if needed. Makes sense. Okay, let's hop over to Meta. What was the buzz around them?
Big focus on talent, again. Reports of them offering massive salaries over $2 million a year to attract top AI people.
2 million plus. That's serious cash. Is it working? Are they holding on to everyone?
Well, despite the huge offers, they're reportedly still losing some talent. OpenAI and Anthropic were mentioned as places people are going from Meta.
Ouch. So even Meta's deep pockets aren't a guarantee in this talent war.
It really shows how intense the competition is.
What else is happening strategically at Meta? They have that new lab, right?
Yes, the superintelligence lab, though there are still questions about its exact direction, but the potentially huge news is a possible acquisition.
Oh, who are they looking at?
Scale AI. Reports suggest Meta is considering buying a 49% stake for almost $15 billion.
$15 billion for just under half of Scale AI. Scale does data labeling, model evil, enterprise AI. That's
Yeah.
a massive investment.
It's huge. And it might not just be about the money or tech. The reports also mention potentially bringing Scale's CEO, Alex Wang, into a senior role at Meta.
Right. That could really shake things up. Bringing in outside leadership, Scale's enterprise focus. It makes you wonder what Meta feels they need to bring in from the outside.
Exactly. Does it signal a shift in strategy, a need for different expertise? It's a potential game changer if it goes through.
Definitely one to watch. Okay, finally, let's talk about something that hit users directly this week. The OpenAI and ChatGPT outages.
Yeah, June 11th wasn't a great day for OpenAI's reliability. There were significant widespread service disruptions. Both the ChatGPT website and the API were affected.
I saw that headline, something like millions forced to use brain.
Yeah. Funny, but it points to a real dependency, doesn't it? People were genuinely inconvenienced.
And not just individuals, right?
Yeah.
Businesses relying on the API must have felt it.
Absolutely. Someone shared a story about their app, built on GPT 4.1, failing right in the middle of an investor presentation because the API was down. That's not good.
Yikes. Talk about bad timing. What were people actually experiencing? Just slow responses.
Worse than that, high failure rates on messages. Some said 100% failure. Models getting stuck in loops trying to process things. It wasn't just slow, it was broken for many.
So what could you do? Just wait.
Pretty much. Lots of people were hitting refresh on OpenAI's official status page, hoping for good news. And predictably, you saw chatter online about canceling subscriptions, looking at alternatives like Claude Pro. Unreliability really hurts user trust.
Understandably. And this was confirmed as a widespread issue.
Yeah, reports indicated it wasn't just isolated glitches. It seemed to be a major real-time outage hitting multiple services. A stark reminder, really.
So putting it all together from that day, June 11th, what's the big picture? We have OpenAI pushing hard on price, but still dealing with quality concerns and, obviously, reliability issues.
Then you've got Mistral carving out this niche in reasoning, going open source with their small model, but facing questions about how deep the reasoning goes and why the bigger model isn't open.
Apple taking its own path, tightly linking AI to its hardware, using clever engineering tricks, and creating that layered, privacy-focused system.
And Meta throwing money at talent while potentially making a massive strategic acquisition in Scale AI, trying to position itself for the next phase.
But running underneath all that progress and competition is the vulnerability shown by the OpenAI outage. These incredibly powerful tools we're starting to lean on, well, they aren't always there when you need them.
It really forces that question, doesn't it? As we build these AIs deeper into everything we do, work, decisions, daily tasks, how do we square the amazing potential with the basic need for them to just work? To be reliable, trustworthy, available.
It's a tension we're clearly still navigating. Definitely something to keep thinking about.
For sure.
All right, that's our deep dive for today. Hopefully that gives you a clearer view of the AI landscape from that snapshot in time.